Well, buildings, you can't live without them, certainly. And there's a lot tied to structures, not just the buildings, really, but whole urban planning. There's a flooding situation as well. So all of these things come together into one as we have a conversation with Dr. Waliu Adeolu, who is the president of the Nigerian Association for Engineering, Geology, and the Environment. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Kaide. Good morning.
Good morning. A lot of Nigerians saw that video online of the Afroland building that houses one of UBA's branches on Lagos Island. They also saw the Mandela's fire. And they saw that building and they're thinking, wait a minute, is this what is meant to be in situations like this? I mean, this is your field. In terms of engineering, thinking, because buildings are for people, not people for buildings. So we're meant to do these things and we think of scenarios. If there's a fire, if there's an emergency, what is meant to happen? Looking at that scenario that played out, particularly the Afroland Towers, what did you notice? What should have been done better and how can we improve on such in the future?
Okay, thank you very much, Kaide. It's good to be here today. And as I would look at that incident, it's very disheartening, and not because of the commercial loss, but seriously because of the risks that are stated to lives due to some negligence in some sectors. And this negligence is not just restricted to one aspect of I think it's to our culture. And what do I mean? Beyond technical suggestions, designs that has to be implemented. Our usage, safety, understanding, we commit most of the things to prayers rather than sticking to safety compliances. You know, I would be very bold to say that I'm part of the Nigerian Building Code domestication to Lagos State. There are quite a lot of safety regulations that have been put in place into our designs. But of course, you know, even when these designs are done, you can hardly come in to help the people that live there to maintain the safety protocols. The safety protocols are often neglected after even the design has been done. What we can do as professionals is to design and prepare for safety, prepare for fire hazards in all of our, in the aspect of the designs. But the implementation comes to the people itself, you know, and this commercial, the people that use this building often do not follow those simple safety regulations within the design. I know the building, this particular building is an old building, but nonetheless, even old building, every engineering design must take into consideration that safety where you have exit plans. You would be amazed at exit plans, but they've been converted into some, would I say, commercial outlets, maybe shops. You know, that's the usual thing that happen on the island where this eco. I will call it eco. Yeah, that's what we call it in Lagos. So these areas, you see them converting exit areas into outlets, you know, for commercial. Those areas are not to be compromised in whatsoever conditions. So this part of commercial loss, the economic loss, is significant and is to be addressed. However, the loss to life, the threat and the trauma is is immeasurable. So based on this, I feel from an engineering geology perspective, it is something that we have to avoid, because once this happens, even the soil to which that building is to be erected is now weakened by the effect of the fire incidents.
Well, a lot of things we need to just do right. The times we just imagine, no, don't worry, it'll be fine. Let's just do it this way. Let's make money, do things fast. But those things eventually come to bite us in the bum. And we're hoping that the coming floods will also not bite us in the bum. Predictions come up time and again. The rains have come. It's funny we're talking about fire when we're in the rainy season, right? So it's almost like wherever you turn, the elements are just doing their thing. But what do you make of the predictions for this year? From your own assessment, are we ready for the floods?
Well, I thank you very much again for that question. These topical questions that touch on the lives of people, they matter a lot to me. And there is a way of looking at nature controlling, telling us that we should be careful, that we have limits. We are not particularly, I would say entirely free to use the land anyhow. We need to be very responsible. And in this responsibility, we need to acquire quite a lot of scientific data to guide us. The precision of this data would help us manage the flood. Yes, I know the meteorological agencies they have quite a lot of equipment now, better than before, but even when you can predict this flood accurately, what are the responsible activities that you are doing? One, we have floodplains that goes from the upside to the lower elevation areas, and these floodplains oftentimes carry sediments in them, and they are flooded, and they are silted up. That's the word we use. There's supposed to be continuous dredging and desilting of our floodplains to be able to carry more volume of water. Also, apart from the volume, there are areas there where we can zone into high risk and low risk flood prone areas that would reduce the impact. What do I mean? There are some geological components of our soil that needs to be well understood. The clayey layers that are impermeable would not allow infiltration into the ground. So these areas are to be avoided as much as possible in planning our floodplains. Because when you have a place that cannot encourage infiltration, then the water gets retained, and of course you have serious flood. It takes a lot of time for the floods to dissipate into the ground. So what do? We can also model and responsibly look at direct the floodplains in such a manner that they go into areas that can have higher infiltration of the floods when they happen. Flood, you cannot stop it. Nature, the climate conditions are going to, increase the severity of this. But how we react to it is what I think is important. Our reaction would mean a responsible maintenance of our drainage paths. Also, our dams, a reasonable release of this water, so that, because as much as the dam help us reduce this flood, they can also cause serious damage to our environment if they are not released in such a scientific manner and with a connection with the communities that are downstream. If you don't have this connection between them and a gradual release, not just an immediate release of this water from the dam, these and many more would affect the environment.
My apologies. If you can help us, let's use Lagos for example, which is where we do business. There are several other parts. If you have the information, you can also posit this with those scenarios. What is our reality in Lagos that we should accept? So, main part, island and the mainland. Because in places like Opik, for instance, when it rains, there are parts that is literally impassable. There was a time, I don't know whether it still happens, but literally every time it rains heavy, those seasons, people need to literally evacuate or go stay somewhere else for like a few days or a few weeks until the situation gets better. So help us from a scientific point of view. What is our reality in Lagos? What parts of Lagos, if you live there, you should just know that for the rest of your life, this is what you have to be facing, except you need to have an alternative plan. Let's begin from there.
Okay, well, thank you very much again for that question. If you look at it, Lagos is downstream. And what do I mean? Whether you're on the island or on the mainland. If you look at the geological landscape of Lagos, we are down on the map. So when this flow comes, we are almost going to be affected every time. So we cannot stop it. So what we can do is how do we respond and how do we manage it? The reality of Lagos is a coastal area, and we have what we call coastal plain sands. These sands have little or no affinity to retain water for a long time. They would go through them, and the problem now would be that we are surrounded, of course, by the beaches and the sea level, the seas. So the sea level rises. Sometimes it does not allow, should I say, it does not allow the floods to easily go into the oceans where you would have the impact minimized. So when you have sea level rise, it does not allow easy passage of water. Trying to use something that the audience would probably understand. Easy passage of water into the river. So what do? I think one is our land use attitude has to be very responsible. There are some areas that you cannot build on. Some areas very even close to where we are right now are on floodplains.
I would like you to be mentioning. That's why I said our reality. So let's not speak in theory, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, you look at the Ogun Dam, usually houses quite a lot of volume of water, and when this water is released into during the peak of the rainy season, it goes all the way from the Ogun Dam into the Kara area. There's this place called Long Bridge, not very far away from us. It goes into that side to the Odongunyo, Ikorodu axis. All those areas are floodplains. And whether we like it or not, until these areas, the floodplains that passes through them are widened up, you do not build on those floodplains, we will continue to have issues. I think the government of Lagos has to educate and enforce compliance to not building on those flood areas. We also must encourage forestation as much as possible, because when you plant trees, you are able to decrease the effects of this flooding. But almost everywhere we have one estate or the other coming up, and just for the urbanization of Lagos, everybody just wants to have a building come up regardless and without respect for these flood paths. I think it's very critical that the government must come up with a sound policy that would deter people and encourage those ones that are built already to please live and look at their lives. Also, we cannot fight nature. We can only try to live with it. The island is almost at the same level with the sea. That being said, it means our design of buildings in that area have to be resilient. It has to be resilient building design that will be able to withstand some of this flooding. So what am I saying? One, responsible use of our lands. Compliance on another level has to be very deliberate. Three, resilient designs for our buildings that we know we cannot do without, especially areas on the island. It's very important that the designs are resilient to flooding. One design, okay, I don't want to speak in too many technical terms, but what I mean is they have to take into consideration the flooding without affecting the foundations, because when floods are retained too much around the building, they continuously dissipate into the ground, reduce the components that forms the basic competency of the soil, and as such, compromises the building. So I've mentioned flood desilting of our floodplains is also a major and a continuous event that we must continuously do in Lagos. Flooding shouldn't be a problem because of the kind kind of level Lagos is supposed to be operating. There are some certain economies outside of Nigeria that are even below the water level, the Netherlands, and they sustain the flood system. So I would believe we can do that.
Speaking of sustainability, I wonder if relevant agencies are living up to their billing. And I say this in the light of the holistic conversation that we're having. You've talked about rising sea levels. You've talked about the need for gradual release of the Ogun Dam. We also know that beyond that, even a damaged dam led to flooding in Borno State, just months ago. So, and we also, I wonder if you saw it, by the way, months ago, dangerously high water levels of the ocean beneath the Third Mainland Bridge here in Lagos. And some say that that is seasonal, but that is very worrying. So what should be the role of the National Hydrographic Agency, the Institute of Oceanography, or are they living up to their billing, and what is government bureaucracy that is preventing the interventions in terms of structural projects that should stem the tide in rising sea levels, which is also part of the worry beyond high degrees of rainfall?
Okay, well, thank you very much. Again, we look at these agencies of government that's supposed to be responsible to guide us with this data. The question is, how much data do they have, and how much of that data are they willing to share with the relevant professional societies that can make good use of it, and of course advise. It is not enough for you to just have this data, but it is important that the data are used responsibly to prevent havoc from happening to us. Some of this, the rise in the water level that you see, some of them are not a major concern. And what do I mean? If that bridge has been designed to withstand that maximum flood level, it might not be a concern. We look at it from a layman perspective and think, because this has gone up, it threatens the structural stability of that bridge. I don't think so. Every design takes into consideration a worst-case scenario, a level at which, even when the water level is at the highest, the hydrostatic pressure on the bridge would have no effect. And that's what I meant when I said resilient building designs, resilient infrastructural design. And the road is part of this infrastructure. So I am very aware that these designs would have taken care of that high level. There is no need for panic when you see that. But the point is, it has some cultural impacts when it is that high. On some other areas, it does not allow people move. I am aware of some buildings that you won't be able to even get out of the areas without using canoe and some other things. So the key thing is, sensitive structures as roads and bridges are designed to withstand those high level of flooding.
Indeed.
And unless I am going to be, surprised, that is when they wouldn't have done that design. But I'm sure responsible road companies would have done quite a lot of design to be considerations and parameters to withstand that high level of.
You just opened another vista of conversation. Responsible road companies. How many road companies, construction companies are responsible? Because you find lots of roads and you wonder, was this really constructed by people who went to school to learn how to build the very best of roads, or just some random people? But I'm not going to get into that because there's conversation around flash floods, the drainage, how fast can they drain water, can we really prevent flash floods and all of that. But we're totally out of time. But just to mention again that the federal government has predicted fresh flooding in Lagos and 13 other states between the 16th and the 18th. This is the 17th. So expect, if your state, and that's why it's important to follow the news, if your state is among the states listed, they are, I'll just give you some of them. Akwa Ibom State, Cross River State, Bayelsa, we have Delta, Kebbi State, River State, Sokoto, Ondo, of course Lagos State as well. please be on the lookout. But we have to thank you so much, Dr. Waliu Adeolu, the President, Nigerian Association for Engineering, Geology and the Environment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Kayode. Thank you, everyone.
We'll take a moment now. When we return, inflation figures are out, but what are the prices really when we talk about food, that is? We'll have a leader of one of the biggest markets joining us to walk through our reality together. So stay with us, we'll be right back.